Hello world, in my artistic pursuits, I am Autumn. I posted part 1 of my moving to South Korea and my quarantine, and that will be linked down below, but as I was editing that, I realized it was going to be way too long, so I split it into 2 parts, and this is part 2. I hope you enjoy.
So day 2, you are required to get a COVID test. So if you arrive when the COVID test sites or testing sites here are open, then your taxi driver will actually take you straight to your testing site. You will get your COVID test done, and then you will go to your quarantine house. In my case, I arrived after the COVID testing sites were closed. So I was taken straight to my quarantine house. And then the next day I woke up and I had some time before the place that I had to go get my COVID test done, which was the, what was it called? So I had to go to, it is backwards. I had to go to this testing site to get my COVID test. They assign you one, you can't just go to any single one. And I had some time before that testing site was going to open up for the day at 9 a.m. on Sundays. So what I did was I actually got my SIM card set up on my phone. So I went with this company to get my SIM card, and it's a 90-day SIM card with, there's not that much data on it, but I knew I wouldn't be really going anywhere, that I needed like copious amounts of data. And it was really nice. So they sent the SIM card in this little package, and then they also sent me these little attachments. So you could put the SIM card into it, and it's an adapter. And then they also gave me this little carrying case for everything. So inside is the thing that you use to open up your SIM card holder. And then that's the one I used when I was in Canada. I was with Bell. Now I'm with, I think it's KT Mobile. I'm not entirely sure. But I will be setting up a full mobile plan after I get my alien registration card or my ARC and have my bank account going and all the different things. So once I got my SIM card set up, I then had to call the testing site. I had to call the public health center to get permission to leave my room, which is very weird, but also to make sure that I was allowed to go and get my test done that day. So this is kind of how the apps work. So I have both of my Korea quarantine apps in one folder. So the self-check app opens and it looks like this. I've successfully registered. I've submitted my self-check for today, but if you open it up, you can do no symptoms for everything. And then it's optional on this one to put in your temperature, and it's optional to write a little health status report for yourself. And then in this one, I haven't done it yet for tonight, but I'll do it in a few hours, but it is my diagnosis list. So all the ones that I've taken so far or provided them so far. But on this app, you also have your living rules. So it lists them out for you. Your official contact. So this is the place where I got my COVID test done. So I had to call them through this app. And I had to verify if I was allowed to go, how I got there, my transportation. And then the bottom number is actually the number for the Center for Disease Control, the CDC. And in this one, you do actually have to provide your temperature, which is why I actually brought a thermometer with me, but they asked if I needed one. I told them I didn't. So they only sent a hazardous waste disposal kit for me, which was very interesting. But yeah, you select your symptoms, you write anything specific, and then you save. And it is sent to the public official in charge. So when I used the app to make the initial call to see that I was allowed to leave my room and I could go get my COVID test, unfortunately the person I got didn't speak any English whatsoever, and that was to be expected. And I didn't have enough Korean to say, hi, I need to leave my room. Is this going to be breaking the law? How do I get there? What types of transportation am I allowed to take? Blah, 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 blah. So I actually got hung up on twice. because I was trying to speak Korean and my Korean just wasn't good enough. And it was a real mix of the person on the other end going like, mm-hmm, I'm gonna put you on hold, and then the call ending. And me being like, I guess I'll try again. And the line was also really busy. So there was 2 issues there. What finally ended up happening was I got through and I was able to communicate that I needed COVID test. I arrived yesterday. What do I do? And I was able to get about 2 or 3 phrases in Korean out. And at that point, the person said, I transfer you, and I'd heard that before, and I was like, oh great, I'm gonna get disconnected, and I was disconnected for a 3rd time. However, this disconnection led to my Kakao chat suddenly going off, and they had actually contacted me through the app. So if you've never been to South Korea before, one of the most popular messaging apps is Kakao Talk. So what ended up happening was they contacted me through my Kakao. Also, the blue is because they are currently tracking me right now. So if your GPS is on, your location is on, it's going to be blue. So that's a good thing. But they contacted me through the app in Korean. I told them I don't have that great Korean, and they said, don't worry, just copy and paste it into Google Translate and answer in English, and we'll do the same. And I was like, oh, okay, sounds easy enough. And with that, we were able to talk about how to properly get rid of my garbage and recycling, if I had a thermometer or not. Then we talked about me getting my COVID test. And I wanted to make sure that I wasn't going to get deported or fined for leaving my room, because they said, do not take transportation, do not take taxi, do not take bus, do not take subway. I had to walk it, and it was a very long walk. So it was about 36 minutes according to Naver. I think that's how you pronounce it. I'm not entirely sure. So Naver is basically the go-to search engine used here in South Korea as opposed to Google. And they have their own apps. So one of the apps is a Naver Maps. So I use that as opposed to Google Maps, because Google Maps works, but it isn't as detailed as the app that is most used here. So it said it was only a 36-minute walk, and I was like, okay, I will attempt to be there, and I will walk as fast as I can because the testing site closes at 12:30. So I put on my shoes, made sure I wasn't breaking the law, and left for the first time and last time, because that would be my last journey outside of this room for the next 2 weeks. So I made a pretty quick pace because I was worried about not arriving in time and there being a long line and then not getting tested and having to do it all again. And something that I forgot about South Korea is that it is really, really, really hilly. It is mountainous. It's unfathomable. I was completely gross by the time I arrived at the testing site. It was hot. The humidity levels are really high. It's basically like an oven with all like the skyscrapers and all the concrete. So it was a long walk. I was really gross by the time I arrived. But then once I got there, I arrived at the building, had to go around the corner because it's set up in like the parking lot area. And I had to wait in a line to fill out a sign-in sheet, a check-in kind of sheet that just had my name, it had my nationality, my phone number. And once I filled that out, I actually brought, again, this piece of paper with me, which was really helpful because as I was pulling it out from my binder that I took with me with all my documents in it, the woman who was holding the clipboard waiting for me was like, oh, and she saw it was in Korean, so she immediately took it and just wrote the address down in Korean. And because at this point I had a South Korean phone number, I no longer had to write down my housing phone number. I wrote down my own number, which was really nice. And so then I went and stood in a line. And it was a line that kind of did this like zigzag thing, which for whatever reason was hard for some people to follow. So the line, someone actually had to stand at the line and make sure people were lining up correctly, and then when the line moved, that they were moving in the correct direction. And at the end of that line, you then sat down in these seats and filled out this really long form. And there were people there to help you fill out the form, and you needed your passport, you needed your address, which I had, you needed a phone number, and you needed the dates that you arrived, and you also needed your boarding passes or your plane tickets, with all the information of what line you were on, where you were coming from, your layovers, all that different stuff. So I had that. I filled out the form, and then I got sent to line 3. And in line 3, it was all chairs, and we sat down in the glorious sun and toasted a little bit. And then at the end of that line, you got to meet the doctors who signed off on your forms. And they were completely in hazmat suits. There was hand sanitizer everywhere. I made sure to put some on every single time, especially when it came to the pens. However, the pens were being sprayed down with some type of disinfectant after you use them. So you slide your papers under this kind of like little opening. They take them, they check them, they do whatever, and then you get handed your COVID-19 testing kit. And it's just, it has a sticker attached to it, it's cotton swabs, it's all these different things, and they hand it to you, they tell you your number, 1 or 2. I was number 2, I believe. I think I was number 2. And then they send you to a 4th line, and that line's a lot shorter, and you wait in that line, and then there is the testing site. You go in, you hand them your kit. I had a woman, she was really nice, and so then she told me to take my mask down, so I took my mask down. I went in, and there was this big kind of like plexiglass-like thing with 2 holes and like thick rubber gloves. So she put her hands into the gloves, and then she took out the cotton swab, told me to open my mouth, and jabbed it into my throat and took a sample from there. And then she was like, okay, tilt your head back. I tilt my head back, and she stuck one up my nose. At this point, I'd already had one COVID test done for my visa application, so I kind of knew what to expect, but it does not, even no matter how many times you do it, I think the discomfort will always be there. It doesn't hurt. Like, it's not pain, but it's a high level of discomfort. There's a fine line there, and it doesn't go into like a needle. I find needles painful, but it doesn't go into like where you're really hurting, but it is highly uncomfortable, and you do kind of like want to rub your nose afterward and be kind of like, ooh, that didn't feel good. And then you put it into a tray, put more hand sanitizer on, and you're done. So I got permission to walk all the way back to my housing, and at this point I was hot, I was sweaty, I was completely dehydrated. I got back here and I just chugged all the water I could, and tried to come to terms with everything that had just gone down. And then you wait to see if you're negative or positive. So the next day, I found out that I was negative. They sent me a little text message and were like, yay, you're not positive for the virus. And I was like, great. And they're like, you still have to stay in quarantine. And I was like, I knew that. So even if your test is negative, you do have to stay in your quarantine housing for the full 14 days. They let me know that I was allowed to leave my quarantine housing on the 29th of August at noon. So I am counting down the days, counting down the hours until when I can regain my freedom and then have to move from this quarantine housing to where I'll be staying for the next 6 months. It's a long procedure, but it isn't that bad. There's people to walk you through it. There's people to help you along the way. The disappointing thing for me was like walking there and walking back and seeing all these different restaurants, smelling all these really good smelling foods, seeing people with... But I got back to my quarantine housing, and I will remain here until the 29th at noon. So with that in mind, here's a little tour of where I'm at.
So welcome to my quarantine housing. This is the mud room, I suppose, is one way of putting it. So in this cabinet, it is mostly empty, but I do have a dustpan in here. I also have a mask, so if someone comes to the door, I can slip it on and don't have to worry too much. I have 2 gloves. Those are actually from the Air Canada kit, but I kept them because I didn't use them on the flight. And then here I have some shoes. So these were shoes that I didn't want to get ruined. These are the ones I wore on the plane. These are when I walked to the COVID testing site, and then boots that I didn't want ruined. So I laid them out flat. And then as you can see, there is water propped up against the door, and that's just because the door shakes a lot. But with the water up against them, it doesn't shake too much. So it doesn't wake me up at night, and it's not like I'm going anywhere. So I can just kind of leave it there. And that's actually something really nice that 42 Share provided me with, was 2 things of so something really nice that 42 Share provided me with, which was 12 bottles of 2 liters of water. When you first come in, to the right is the bathroom. Open it up. My shower shoes brought from home. So the toilet's on this side, and in the medicine cabinets I have makeup wipes, I have some toothpaste in the back, dental floss, creams, razor, hairbrush. And then in the bathroom itself, I have my face scrub, toothpaste, again, toothbrush, shampoo, conditioner, and a bar of soap. So the shower system in South Korea is a little bit different. So that is actually the shower head, and you work the shower as follows. So I'm gonna put this on this side. So if you want just the sink, you can turn it on like so. But if you are looking to access the actual shower, what you're gonna do is you're gonna pull out this tab, just like that, and then you are going to lift it. And there we go. So that does come down, and then you can put it in whatever position you want. But as you can see, the water pools on the floor, but it does drain down, which is one of the reasons you do have shower shoes, because everything gets wet. Literally everything will get wet. I try and be a bit careful so it doesn't hit the toilet paper, just because I don't want that completely soggy. And so once we come out, on this side is the kit that the government dropped off for me. It is a hazardous disposal waste kit with various things. There is a suitcase that I didn't unpack because I'm only here for 2 weeks, my backpack. These are all from grocery store deliveries. Empty water. On this side, I have one of my bags that I use to carry around all my documents. And then in here, I have more documentation of notarized documents, my mini backpack, makeup stuff, contact lenses, and my electronics. The one nice thing I like about this place is that I do have these kind of blinds on my closet so that you can kind of see through, but if you pull it so that they're not aligned, then you can't. And in here I just have some hats, my laptop case, shorts, some clothes. I haven't done laundry yet, so those are actually clothes that are in their own type of quarantine. They're the clothes that I wore outside. Behind this one is my suitcase. Here is my view. I'm not near the main road, I'm off of it, so it's not too loud, although on occasion it has gotten pretty noisy out there. On my bed, I have my carry-on rolly suitcase just tucked in behind. I brought some comfort items from home. Right next to my bed, I have a face mask, an eye mask for at night. And then my headphones, a flashlight, chapstick, thermometer. And then I have my laptop all set up. That's what I'm doing right now. And one of the important things in the quarantine house that I needed was a place to cook. So this is the element that I have for cooking. And 42 Share provided me with 2 pots, a basic plate and bowl, some cutlery. They even gave me some laundry detergent because there is a laundry machine right here.
And I brought this from home, which was actually quite useful because there was no paper towel to dry anything with. And I didn't want to use up all my toilet paper on that, so that's come in handy. Up here I have granola bars, tea, cup of soup, instant noodles, and then I have different candies. In my fridge I have juice, I have water, half an apple, I have apples and red peppers in the bottom, and then in this little cart is some of my instant frozen meals that I'll be having later tonight. And then here is my medical face mask supply, my face shields that I wore on the plane. I have 2 of them. The microwave, I actually had to look up the settings for this microwave because I wasn't entirely sure what they all meant, and Google Translate actually didn't help in this case. I have a printer. I brought that printer from Canada because I didn't know if the libraries here in South Korea, if they were going to be open, what the situation was going to be, and I knew I needed stuff printed for when I went and opened some of like my bank account, mobile, I'm getting my ARC card. I knew I was going to need a printer, and I didn't know if I was going to be able to go to university for that. I also have a pair of scissors that I brought from home. This is both an adapter but also a converter. I haven't had to use that yet, but I don't know if I'll need it. And this bag was provided by 42 Share. So there was some towels in here. They provided a soap bar, a clear bag, which is similar to the one that is currently in the garbage pail, and masks. And then in the top one, it was actually toilet paper. It's still full of toilet paper, and that's gonna get me through until I'm allowed to go out shopping. And then in the fridge, there is actually these, and that is black sesame soy milk. And as someone who is lactose intolerant, that was a really nice thing that I found in here when I first came. So this is my quarantine. Oh, that's the air conditioner, which is very useful because inside it can get very hot, but I have it off right now because it's too loud. But yeah, so there's quite a bit of floor space in this place, so I don't feel too crammed. It's not tiny. There's some room on the ground for working out in the morning if I so desire, and there's a nice big window, which is something that when I move into my next place I'll have, and if I get an apartment later that I will also have. And this was one of the most important things that I needed in my life, was a window for natural light, because some of the goshi one in South Korea, they actually have windowless rooms and they're cheap, and that's fine, but that is my quarantine room. I kind of like it. I'm gonna be sad to say goodbye to it, but I'm also counting down the days until I get to say goodbye. So mixed feelings. In closing, it's been a little lonely being in this room. It's not tiny, but it's not massive. So it does kind of feel, it is isolation. You're in isolation, you're in quarantine. And it does feel lonely. So when I was in quarantine in Canada, I had my family, I also had my pets, and I wasn't alone. So that's a big difference, is that you are alone. And you're in a different time zone, or at least I'm in a different time zone than my friends and family back in Canada. And when I'm awake, they're asleep. When I'm asleep, they're all awake. So it's a really exciting adventure, but you have to be ready for the ups and downs. So the ups being, you were on this amazing journey. I'm looking forward to getting out of quarantine, being able to go explore, see different cafes, do different types of things, and just go live, study. I'm excited for my classes to start on September 1st. I'm excited for everything that comes with the graduate school experience. So while I'm in quarantine, I am able to get stuff done. So stuff that I'll have to actually be doing physically once I get out of quarantine, like dropping off some of my paperwork, getting things in order, opening bank accounts. I can prep for all of that while I'm still here in quarantine. And also I downloaded the app Shuttle Delivery, which is basically like an Uber Eats in South Korea, and I am ordering from there to just kind of keep things exciting because I did order groceries for here, but it's also kind of nice trying different foods. So I got Korean fried chicken, and I'm going to be trying different foods from around. So kind of like going out, but not. But it's really exciting, and I think I'm going to be making more videos, seeing different things, going to cafes, going for walks around different rivers, different parks, and kind of what you have to do as a grad student here in South Korea. So I'm looking forward to making those. I hope that you'll be looking forward to watching those. If you have any ideas of places that I should go once I'm out of quarantine, things that I should see or make videos of, please let me know. And I hope everyone is staying happy. So feel free to subscribe and leave a like on this video, and follow me on all my other social media. There's actually not that many. I am Autumn, and this is my life.